Hello everyone, my name is Rose, and this is my story. My mother-in-law, Sherry, is a vain and shallow woman. She wasn't always like this. Her behavior changed later in life, or at least that's what my husband Dylan says. Dylan and Sherry didn't grow up rich. They lived a modest life together after Dylan's father passed away when Dylan was just 4 years old. Since then, Sherry became the one who earned money for the family. They lived simply until Dylan got a great job after college. Dylan is a very smart and kind man, and I'm not just saying that because he's my husband. He got a full scholarship to medical school and became a doctor. After that, Sherry started living a luxurious life, while Dylan remained humble. The reason I'm telling you all this is that I still don't understand how and why Sherry became so shallow. I don't have a job for several reasons that I'll explain later, but that doesn't mean I'm poor or depend on others for help. Somehow, Sherry got the wrong idea about me when we first met. I'm not sure if it was my clothes or how I acted, but Sherry didn't like me from the start. When we first met, Sherry said to Dylan, "Is this the girl you've been talking about? She's so plain and average. Why would you choose someone like her? Does she even have a job?" I introduced myself. "My name is Rose, Sherry. No, I don't have a job." Sherry quickly interrupted, "Just as I thought. You're planning to trap my son and take all his money. I know women like you, you're nothing but gold diggers and parasites. Don't think you can fool me." Dylan tried to defend me, saying, "Mom, that's so rude. You don't even know Rose. She's a great person from a great family. You have no right to talk to her like that." Sherry responded, "Dylan, how can you speak to me like that? I'm only trying to protect you. You can't ruin our family's name by marrying this classless woman. You need to raise your standards. It's clear she doesn't match our social or economic status." This led to a big argument between Dylan and Sherry right in front of me. Dylan was getting really angry, so we decided to leave. On our way home, Dylan apologized for his mother. He said, "I'm so sorry, Rose. My mom doesn't know how to act like a sane person anymore. I know her words hurt you." I replied, "It's not your fault, Dylan, but your mom seems like a horrible lady. Please don't worry, but I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable around her." Dylan explained, "Rose, you know she's the only parent I have left. We don't have much extended family either. I can't cut her off completely. I'll never push you to be friends with her, but can you at least be civil around her?" I agreed. "I can be respectful towards your mom, Dylan, but I don't think she can do the same." Dylan assured me, "Don't worry, Rose. I'll keep her in check. If her behavior gets worse, we can consider going low contact or something. I love my mom, but I also love you. I won't let her keep harassing you." I was a little unsure about how things would go between Sherry and me. Dylan promised he'd stand up for me, but I still felt uneasy. Dylan and I got married 3 years after we started dating. We had a small court wedding because we were short on money. You might wonder why. Well, Dylan was sending a lot of money to Sherry every month because of her emergencies. Even after we got married, Dylan kept giving his mother a large amount of money every month. It started affecting our finances, but I didn't stop him. I thought he had the right to help his mom. However, Sherry was becoming a big problem for me. She often talked badly about me and gossiped with her friends, telling everyone I was a gold digger. I usually ignored these comments, but it was starting to hurt my reputation. Sherry also never treated me nicely, despite Dylan's efforts to make things better between us. She was convinced that I wasn't good enough for her son. Then, surprisingly, one day Dylan told me, "Rose, Mom called me today. She's hosting a small party and wants to invite you." "Are you sure she really wants to invite me?" I asked. "I don't see why she'd invite me, since she hates me," I said. "I've talked to her several times, Rose. She promised to be better, so maybe that's why she's inviting you to the party," Dylan replied. "That's strange, Dylan. I wonder where she's getting all this money for a party. Just this month, she said she needed money for car repairs. I guess she managed somehow. It's just a small gathering of 4 people or so. It won't be very expensive, and Mom seems excited about it. She really wants you there," Dylan explained. "Well, if that's what she wants, I'll go. You know, I don't mind spending time with her. It's just her comments and behavior towards me that are the problem. It looks like Mom is making an effort. Let's see what happens. Just keep an open mind about this. I really want you two to become friends," Dylan said. I doubted that Sherry would ever want to be friends with me. I mean, I could be civil to her and try on my side because I love Dylan, but it didn't seem like Sherry cared about Dylan's happiness at all. Even though I was skeptical, I decided to go to the party, but I had to wait for details from Sherry. Sherry texted me the very next day. I thought she was going to invite me through these texts, but here's what happened instead. Hey Rose. Dylan may have told you that I've been planning a party recently, Sherry said. Yes, Sherry. Dylan mentioned it to me last week. Are you texting to talk about that? I replied. Why else would I text you, Rose? You're of no use to me anyway. So I've been planning to go to this 5-star hotel in town that everyone has been raving about. I promised my friends I would take them there, and this is finally my chance, Sherry said. That's nice of you, Sherry. Will there be a lot of people? I asked. Yes, of course. You know I have many friends since I am a wealthy lady with a good family name in this town. I'm taking 15 people to the party and we're going to have a blast, Sherry said. Sounds like a great plan, Sherry. When do you want me to get there? I asked. Who said you could come? I didn't invite you yet, Sherry shot back. I was a little taken aback by this. I mean, Dylan clearly told me that his mom was going to invite me. Apparently, Sherry had told him that herself, and he had been genuinely happy for the past week because he thought this was Sherry trying to build a relationship with me. But what Sherry said completely threw me off. I was really confused as to why she was even telling me about the party if she didn't want to invite me. I said, "Oh, I assumed I was invited since you told Dylan that I was. I'm a little confused." Dylan can get a little carried away at times, Rose. I'm just informing you that I will be hosting a party, but you are not invited. This is a fancy place, and my friends and I are very particular about who we take with us. Yes, I'm throwing a party at a 5-star hotel, but don't even think about coming because you are not as classy as my family and friends, Sherry said. Okay, Sherry, I got the message loud and clear. Don't worry, since you don't want me to come, I won't. I don't care what Dylan said. If you don't want me there, I won't go. This is your day, and I don't want to be where I'm not wanted, I responded. I'm glad we cleared that up, Rose. That's all I needed to say. Now I need to get back to planning the party. There's a lot to do, and you probably wouldn't understand since you've likely never been to a big party, let alone planned one. After that, I didn't bother replying. People know me as patient and kind, but I have my limits, just like anyone else. Sherry was really testing me today. I hated that I even had a little hope that she might be trying to make peace. But no, she was just showing off her status and trying to make me feel inferior again. There was no olive branch. I was wrong and I felt stupid, but I wasn't going to let her get to me. I wasn't going to curse her out or anything. I had better things to do, and I knew karma would come for her one day. I didn't tell Dylan anything and simply waited for the day of the party to arrive. On the day of the party, Sherry had the nerve to send me a picture of herself and her friends. They were all dressed in designer clothes and busy posting pictures on social media. Sherry sent me the picture to show off how classy her friend circle is. It was downright disgusting. I didn't reply and just went back to work. About 3 hours later, I got a call from my dad. Now, here's something I should confess. My dad owns the hotel where Sherry was having her party. Sherry had no idea about this. 3 years ago, I got a nice inheritance from my grandfather, which I invested in my dad's business, so now I get a share of the profits from the hotel and the other businesses my dad owns. I actually come from a pretty well-off family, but I don't like to show it off, which is why Sherry didn't know about my background. She also didn't realize how expensive a 5-star hotel and its restaurant can be. She let her friends order whatever they wanted without even looking at the prices. The result? She was left with a $22,000 bill. That was exactly what ruined her and gave me my revenge. My dad called and said, "Rose, your mother-in-law is at the hotel." She came with a party and ordered a ton of food and champagne, racking up a bill of $22,000. Now she's asking for a 50% discount because she's short on cash. What should I do, Rose? I know she's your mother-in-law, but this is a lot of money. My servers are also upset because they were rude and entitled. God, just as I expected, Dad. This woman and her group are absolutely horrible. They have no respect for people and love to make fun of others. You know, she bragged to me about today's party and said I wasn't invited. What the hell? Why would she do that to you? That's absolutely ridiculous, my dad said. Yeah, Dad, She told me about the party just to rub it in my face that I wasn't invited. She said I wasn't classy or rich enough to get an invite. That's funny, coming from the woman who doesn't even have the money to pay for her party. You should have seen her arguing that we need to give her a discount because she brought us so much business. She went to the restaurant one day and is already claiming she brings in all the business. So typical of her. Rose, just hearing this is exhausting. I can't imagine what you and our poor staff are going through. I know, right? That woman even threatened to leave bad reviews if we didn't give her the discount. But we know better than to be scared of that. I'm going to leave this to you, Rose. Looks like you have the perfect chance to get back at her for what she said to you. That's exactly what I was thinking, Dad. You know what? Make her wash the dishes and get her friends to help too. Make sure they clean the entire kitchen, the dishes, and the floor since they insulted our staff as well. Let's get them some revenge too. If my mother-in-law tries anything stupid, you can call the cops on her. My dad laughed at my suggestion and gave me a big thumbs up. He even offered to share pictures of the event. When it happened, I really would have loved to see Sherry reap what she had sown. Dad promised to do as I suggested and hung up. An hour later, he sent me pictures of Sherry and her friends washing dishes and wiping the floor at our restaurant. Dad also said that when Sherry saw him come out as the restaurant owner, she looked relieved. She started telling her party that she knew the owner and that they'd get out of the situation. She was shocked when Dad told her to go clean his restaurant. Apparently, she was dumbstruck for a while and muttered something. Dad said that since she didn't consider me family, he wasn't considering her family either. It was hilarious. I wish I was there, but I did get some good pictures. After a while, Dylan came home looking pretty pissed off. I could tell he had heard from Sherry what had happened. I also knew she must have given him a twisted account of the events. He walked up to me and said, "Rose, what is this I'm hearing? Your father made my mom wipe down his restaurant and wash dishes. She said you told your dad to do this. What's going on?" "Sorry about that, Dylan. Dad did what is usual in this situation. Your mother went to our restaurant, racked up a $22,000 bill, and then said she didn't have more than $1,000. She also harassed our staff, and her party was a nightmare. I thought this would be a fitting punishment." "Wait a minute, Rose. Mom racked up a $22,000 bill. Who the hell did she take with her? What did they order?" "She took 15 people with her, Dylan. They ordered a lot of expensive stuff. I thought you knew about this. Mom told me she was taking 4 people only and that she invited you, but you declined." "No, Dylan, things didn't happen that way. Your mom did tell me about her party, but she didn't invite me. She did tell me that I didn't deserve an invite for not being classy enough. I can show you the text if you want." "What the hell, Rose?" "Yes. Please show me the text, and please ask your dad to send me the bills." I showed Dylan all the texts, and my dad sent him the bills. I also showed him some of the pictures to make him understand how many people Sherry took with her. Dylan got extremely mad when he saw everything. He called Sherry and said, "Mom, what the hell is wrong with you? You didn't tell me the full story. You only told me that you were a few dollars short of cash." "I told you the truth, Dylan. That wicked woman Rose must have given you a different story. I swear, Dylan, she purposely tried to sabotage me. That's why she declined my invitation." "Is that so, Mom? Then why did your text to her say that she wasn't invited? And why did you insult my wife by saying she's not classy enough for you?" "Oh, Dylan, it was just a harmless joke." "What was a harmless joke, Mom?" "The fact that you're calling your daughter-in-law names while spending thousands of dollars that you took from your son. Does being classy mean you have to rob your family and spend it on friends to look cool?" "Well, I just wanted a small party for me, Dylan. I don't know what the big deal is." "You think spending $22,000 on food and drink isn't a big deal? Do you think my money grows on trees? You're insane, Mom. Guess I was wrong to give you money whenever you gave me sob stories about needing it." "Well, guess what, Mom? I'm not giving you any more money again." "But Dylan, you've been so supportive for me for so long. You can't just stop now. It was a one-time mistake, Dylan. Why are you overreacting?" "No, Mom, I'm not overreacting. This isn't a one-time mistake. If you can't even consider my wife as family, I don't want anything to do with you. I always thought you'd change your mind, but you never did. I'm not paying you to insult my wife while she sacrifices a lot to support you. This ends now. Dylan, please listen to me. I'm sorry." Dylan didn't listen to Sherry anymore. He hung up on her and blocked her number. He also apologized to me profusely for being mad at me without knowing the full story. I forgave him because he stood up for me. We had a serious discussion about Sherry and decided that she would no longer be in our lives for now. Yes, Dylan is now a rich man, but he knows to stay humble. He found Sherry's behavior completely unacceptable, especially since it was directed towards me. I agreed it was very unfair that Sherry treated me like that, and I was all set to remove her from our lives for good. In the next few days, Sherry realized her own actions might have damaged her relationship with her son for good, and that sent her into a panic. She showed up at our house, demanding to speak with Dylan. Slowly, her demands turned into begging after she was turned away every time. Yes, Sherry worked to earn some money, but it wasn't enough for the high-end lifestyle she had gotten used to. All these years, Dylan had stopped giving her money entirely. Instead, he invested some of his funds into my dad's business to help him open new hotels and restaurants in nearby towns. We plan on expanding our hotel business to bigger cities, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Since Dylan stopped sending her funds, Sherry had to downgrade her lifestyle a lot. She struggled to keep her rented condo with her own money and ultimately decided to end her lease. She has now shifted to a small one-bedroom apartment and doesn't have any money to spend on extras after paying her bills. How do we know this? She emails us about it, of course. She still downplays her behavior and acts like we're overreacting. Suffice it to say, she'll be out of our lives for a while now. Just a month ago, I found out I was pregnant. Dylan and I are overjoyed and busy planning everything before the baby comes. Honestly, I'm glad that my child won't be around shallow people like Sherry anymore. But if the time comes, I'll make sure my dear mother-in-law doesn't get to fill my child's head with nonsense. For now, please wish us luck so we can be good parents to a healthy child.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.